Hello and welcome to Make Ideas Reality, the podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to everyday creative heroes making their ideas reality that wouldn't necessarily get their story heard. I hope to inspire you with their stories, give you courage to leave your comfort zone, think big, and be the badass creator you were meant to be. I'm Justin White, aka the Garage Avenger. Let's do this! Hello and welcome to Make Ideas Reality, the podcast. Today's guests have transformed the month of May into the month for makers. They're a couple testing their relationship by combining their own creative passions, working together to help make the world a more creative and positive place. One brings artistic flair, whilst the other one brings engineering logic. Combined, they are PLSmithed. Welcome to the show, Cilla and Luke Smith.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
I obviously mentioned May for Makers. That's pretty much why you guys are on the show today. I was on Instagram browsing and following all my followers, and I saw everyone was posting this stuff on May for Makers. I was like, what is this? So I looked into it. I was like, this is awesome. This is a brilliant concept. But who the hell is behind this? And to my surprise, I found it was a couple, you guys, one of the little guys, and I thought, this is freaking amazing. And I thought, of course, I have to have you guys on the podcast because I'm all about the little guys. But before we go talk about May for Makers, I wanted to give the audience a chance to get you to know you guys a little bit better. So I thought I'd start off by asking you about your journey together and how you kind of guys got together and became PLSmithed.
Oh, yeah. So you want to go first, Phil?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm from Syracuse. We're both from Syracuse, New York, upstate. And now we live on Long Island, about an hour from New York City. And we met in high school art class back in 2011. And I was... that shy guy. I've been pretty shy my whole life, kind of more breaking out of that. But was sitting in class and she came in, walked right up to me and asked if she could sit next to me and says, "Hi, I'm Cilla. What's your name?" And from there, we just kind of took off, developed a great friendship. And I admittedly always had a huge crush on her, but never dated at that point until we reconnected in college. Yeah. So Cilla went to Syracuse University and I went to school away down here on Long Island.
I had reached out to him and I was like, I wonder what he's up to now.
Yeah. So that kind of was the beginning of our, I would say, like artistic bloom in a way, because my mother, she was an artist herself and I was always surrounded by an artistic mind. And I mean,
when we got together, after a couple months of dating, we started making things together because he would come over to my apartment all the time and I'd be like, hey, look at this, I don't know, wine rack or the side table. Let's try and make it. And then he literally just made it happen.
Yeah, it was kind of just a fun thing. Like I always had the idea, like, why go buy something when I can try and make it? I mean, I'm going to spend maybe more money on the materials and the time, but it makes it unique and it makes it your own. So
when we eventually moved down to Long Island, I got a job as a teacher down here. You know, he had offered that job and
as an engineer.
Yeah. And then in our first house, we started building a lot of things together. And as we've moved from place to place, we finally bought our own house. We were able to have our own separate spaces. So in this house, I have the she shed and he has the garage, which is now his shop. And while we've been actively making things more and more often, I specifically was like, no, we should really kind of give a title to what it is that we are doing. Because one of the things that we did to make new friends when we moved down here is they all happened to be small business owners.
Yeah.
So they would need help with things, or they had an idea and we could, help build their space in the interior. So that was something also that we realized we were doing. Yeah. And so when it came to even it was really fun trying to come up with names for like PLSmithed. How can we combine, because we're already doing it, but what is it? So that's kind of how we came up with PLSmithed. It was like, what are we doing? Well, we do a couple of things together.
Well, I mean, like Cilla said about the small business owners that we would help out, and because when we moved to Long Island, we didn't know anybody. We moved away from our family, and a lot of the people we'd meet, we'd go into the restaurants, or like one of the runs the hair stylist, you own a hair salon, and just talking with them. And a lot of the people, let me back up a second. Cilla and I really are big believers in the energy of people, and having positive energy and kind of just having a good vibe with people. And so the people that we were meeting that were these business owners, they just either sensed it off of us or our energy, or we just conveyed it out there that, hey, we love to help people. We love to inspire people to have, just a positive outlook on things and make their ideas become reality.
That is what we do. And one of our really good, he ended up coming to our wedding, which is so cool. And we're working on something for him now for his business. So
really after this podcast, I'm meeting up with him to help him out. So, and it's funny too, what she just said about him coming to our wedding. Our art teacher, where we met, she came to our wedding also.
Yeah, she was in our vows.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. This teacher, Miss Clicola, she was a huge influence on Cilla's life. She Cilla says it all the time, how she influenced her and inspired her to pursue the path of art education. So, but to summarize the question of how we started, it just was combining our talents. At first I was doing woodworking, so I was a fine artist, and we wanted to figure out a way that we can combine that and overlap it all. So,
yeah. I love the fact that you guys still have like connection with your art teacher. I do too.
That's so cool.
Did you know that? I probably call her 3-4 times a year. Just to catch up. Her name is Kath Holder. She changed also my life. Just like when I told her I was joining the military, she was like, "What are you doing?" She was pissed. She was like, "You're an idiot. Like, you're a creative person. You shouldn't be there." And I'm like, did I listen to it? No, I went in the military and spent 8 years of misery there. And then got out of there and, started creating again. And I feel like myself. And if it wasn't for her and her support through high school, I don't think, I would be the creative person I am. So, our teachers are important, people.
That's because I came one.
Yeah.
But it's cool too that you say that, because in terms of like having somebody that inspires you to explore your creative side and to do what you do, Cilla has always been that for me. And I feel that if it wasn't for her, I would not be where I am today. Of course not, but also in terms of making like.
Oh, I pushed him to do his math homework in college. I was like,
Yeah, right? But no, definitely.
That little teacher and me.
Yeah, having the ideas of like, hey, like she would draw things up for what she wanted, and now it is the reality that's in front of us that we use every single day, which is so cool. And it's like,
if he didn't have motivation, sometimes I would come up with ideas because I'd said, what can he build? Because he's so talented and he's amazing. So what can I come up with that he might get excited about? Like
you're putting the poor guy to work. He's like, he's sitting around doing nothing. I'm going to put the shackles on and make him, make him stand by that saw and cut all day,
Right? Sometimes I need it. I mean, when we were chatting before too, I was expressing how we live in the Northeast. So we have the cold winter months where you can't go outside. And before we settled into our house here, we actually had our own shop spaces. I was always just pulling tools out of the closet, out of wherever I stored them, and putting them on a little pop-up table, and that was my workshop. Outdoors and whatever I could get my hands on to do. And I couldn't do that stuff during the winter, and I would really become a little bit depressed. Like, what is my life? What am I doing? I just wake up and go to work every single day from 8 to 5, and I want to be more creative with things. So it definitely was a great thing to have my own shop space and, just pursue it more.
That's exactly where I was at. Like, I was dying inside.
Yeah.
I was like, I was driving to work every day, and I was like, there has to be more to life than this.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm alone. Like, I know there's people probably driving to work right now that wish they could do something else, but they got stuck in a rut, and they invested too much in a house or a car or whatever it is, and they can't get out of it. And I'm hoping through this podcast, I can encourage those people to have a reset, and have a look at what they're spending money on and slowly move towards that goal of, feeling free like I do when I get workshop time. Now, I'm not 100% in my workshop, but I'm so grateful that like I get a couple of days a week to be just solely in the workshop or do this podcast or, edit videos or whatever it is. But those days I feel like I'm doing my purpose, I'm living my why, so I think that's super valuable. And I'm hoping that everyone will eventually get that feeling that I have. Because if, for example, I never became a well-known YouTuber or whatever you want to call it, like as I think I'd still be happy. Like it's tough. Like I'd have to get over that like feeling of like, oh, you could have been that person, do this 100% of the time. But also at the same time, like if I could just do this, like work the hours I need to like put food on the table, keep a roof over our head and do what I do, which drives me, and then, like I'm a happy person. So
I was going to say that it's just like, I mean, you have the people that definitely want to be doing, being creative and making 100% of the time. And it's something that people do just quit their jobs and jump right into it, which is amazing and more power to them. But also having the stability of a job that does provide the food on the table, the roof over the head, the health insurance. Like it's a good thing to have that and to find that balance of the two. And it definitely obviously helps when, your full-time day job is something that you love to do and something that also inspires you. So then you get that motivation that you can bring from there and go right into the shop and do something.
I was going to say that that's also something that Luke and I, PLSmithed, one of our missions is to also support those to do what it is that they love. And also sometimes they know it and they just need that push, or sometimes they didn't know it and they, open their eyes. So I think that one thing, hopefully when things get better in the world, we can eventually have people over and hold classes, because even if you don't know what it is you want to do, but you get to come to a shop and tinker with different materials, I think that my expertise in teaching and Luke with his making and the materials and the tools, we could definitely spark some inspiration and drive in others to want to follow their passion and pursue their dreams. So that's something that's really important for us.
Yeah. And I if I can do that through this podcast, I have the same goal. I think that, and there's no doubt I want to be, we're doing this 100%. But I also know that, statistically, it takes 12 years to be successful at something. Like, and you've got a lot of failures and a lot of things. And, 12 years isn't that long, really.
Yeah.
I'm 35.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. Yeah. So like,
oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm 35 now. I started last year. So it basically means, I'm going to be young by the time I'm making something good from this, like I think I'm going to be young, especially in like retirement age. By the time I hit retirement age, we'll be like 80 or 90 years old. Like governments will not be paying you out like your pension, at 55. Like when I was growing up, my parents were getting, their pension payout at 55 years old. I mean, we're already here at 67. So, I think you got to look at the long term. So, yeah. let's talk about a little bit about you guys individually, because you guys are individuals, and you are PLSmithed together, but you each bring your elements into PLSmithed. So I want to talk to Luke first about sort of where your background is and what's your story.
Yeah, like I touched on before, my mother was an artist, and it's always been, the creative element in my life. And my father was a businessman. He's in real estate and worked at his, family business with his brothers and sisters. And so I really feel like I got, while I was growing up, both sides of the creativity and the really technical aspects of things. And so in high school, I explored both. I took the electives of art, and then I also took the technology engineering electives, and got to kind of decide what I liked and feel out the different two paths. And I really feel like I blended the two pretty well. And I did decide to go to school for an engineering degree, because you always hear, an engineer, it's a stable job, you some pay. So, and on top of that too, I'm an avid golfer. I always played golf, as in my entire family, and kind of where I went to school was kind of dependent on that, because I knew I wanted to play golf in college, and a little bit of a scholarship helped choose what school I chose. But throughout the years of that, I was, in the dorms, and I didn't have access to many tools, but I was just, doing my classes and playing golf. So my time was very limited. But I really still kept in tune with my creative side. And I would spend any free time that I did have on YouTube and watching other makers and seeing how things are done. And I'd always be like, that is so cool. Like that they can take that piece of raw material and turn it into something beautiful that they just had in their mind. And I was always like, I want to try that. I would like to do that myself. So I just always kept that there, but also was focused on my career, because I wanted to, I knew I wanted to settle down and have a family one day. So I just I finished my engineering degree, and then I was offered a job to stay down here on Long Island as a transportation engineer, which is basically just making sure that the roads are working smoothly, that things are upgraded to be to date, to be functional, and optimizing traffic. So
he does amazing things. He draws out the maps. It's amazing. He still gets to be creative in this job. I swear. It's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, that is what I was talking about too, with combining the both technical and the creative sides. And I, for my day job, use AutoCAD on a daily basis pretty much. I'm always drawing up plans of things like that. And it's actually funny, because back in high school, when I took those technology electives, that's where I first learned AutoCAD and how to use it. And so throughout the years of that, I just would become better at it and use it in different ways that weren't only for my job. So I have it on my own computer, and I'll use that for different things that I want to make, and just help it in my planning process. So I guess as a whole with that, I use my engineering mindset and my engineering train of thought to employ that in my making of things. So if it is a structural piece that is furniture based, I know what needs to go where because of the loads and all that type of thing. So, I mean, from that, I have my day job and I do enjoy it, but I do love being in the shop more. I mean, it's just so much more of an outlet for me to try different things and to really be proud of myself with saying, wow, I can't believe I made that.
With blacksmithing?
Yeah. I mean,
I was going to say, do you want to talk about that? Because you're amazing. You are so talented. I think something that he
of course, my wife's saying that.
Yeah, well, no. I always feel embarrassed too when my wife tells me. She's going around all my friends oh, he's so amazing. I'm like, shut up, please.
I'm not afraid to say when, hey, that kind of sucks. Fix it up, right? Yeah, exactly. But it's a positive push. But really, he is amazing.
Well, no, I mean, like I said, I always start off with woodworking just because that was kind of more the accessible thing that I could do with the limited tools I had.
Yeah.
But then it just was a life-changing experience when I got to go to a class at Jimmy DeResta's, met great people, was able to try different things. It was a woodworking class, but he has the anvils and the forges there. And Brett McAfee was the shop like he was Jimmy's shop assistant, but he was there helping with the classes. And I on the side was like, hey, like, is there any way that when we have some free time that I can try some forging? And he's like, yeah, if we have free time, sure. So I got to get a little taste of that there. And when I came home, I was like, look at the stuff I made. I made Cilla like a little heart keychain, so cool. And it just captured my I don't know how to say it. It captured my love for just being creative and using it in a different way and learning new things. So
he still does these detailed drawings of his plans of like knife and these pens, and it makes me so happy because
I know I've seen it. It makes me sick.
So even in high school, we definitely had our different styles, and we have our artwork up on this wall in our room, our living room, where our work is so different. Like his lines are so straight and
very
it's all
architectural,
measured, and it's so beautiful, whereas mine are definitely not. But it is just really cool to see in his work, and his drawing skills are phenomenal. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't get to see based on like what he shares, but he's extremely talented with that.
Yeah, you need to post more of that, Luke.
I'd love to. I mean, and that's funny too, because you just reminded me too in my head, like the reason I actually really went into engineering was because of my love for golf and being creative. I had the idea that I wanted to be a golf course architect. That was kind of my initial plan, and actually why I went into civil, because of the drainage and all that stuff. I thought that would be an exposure of how to do that. And I would always just draw out different shapes and different ways the golf course would go, because I knew how to play golf and I knew what would make a hole hard or what would make it easy or whatever, where things should go. So, I mean, that was my, again, combination of engineering and creativity.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah. So, but with
engineering creativity, because that was actually my question. Because my question was like, how has engineering made you a better maker, and vice versa? How has making made you a better engineer?
Oh yeah. Well, to start with the first, being an engineer with making, you definitely understand the technicalities of things and how things can actually go together and, be compatible and just work. So, I guess with engineering, it's more of the looking at something of very straight lines and this is how it is, like set in stone type of thing, and having that approach to something that you're making, but also knowing when you are making it, it has flexibility to be shifted here or there. And I mean, that and then to go to the other half, that helps with engineering, because when I first started and I would do measurements of something, because a lot of the way it starts is you take the actual measurements of what it is and then you put it on the computer in AutoCAD. I would always be like so specific, like down to the inch. And my coworkers and people like that were training me to become an engineer, it's like, hey, it doesn't have to be that exact. It could be within a foot, because we're dealing with like big things here. Yeah. So it just kind of having the creative side of having a vision of what I want to make, that has helped me, I guess, learn the ability to have a vision of what I need to design for engineering. Because like I said, traffic engineering, that's what I do, but I'm a designer of that. I design the roads, I design the curb ramps and all that stuff. So that's kind of how they work together.
Have you ever thought about combining, some other loves, like such as golf, with making?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you did. Tell him.
It's funny because after I took that woodworking class at Jimmy's, the instructor Tracy Chevron, he put in an Instagram story. He was he goes to like antique stores and stuff, and he is holding a golf club with a wooden shaft. He's like, hey, Luke, maybe one day you'll try making this. And I think that I would love to try doing that.
That'd be so awesome.
I thought of the idea. Well, with golf, certain ones are forged, and it's drop forged usually. And that makes a better golf club, which has more of a feel to it. That's like, you're connected to the club. And I had the idea that I definitely want to try forging out like some different clubs and stuff like that.
Which actually
that'd be so
great,
cool.
Because I've been saying, well, every year I'm getting better, but to learn how to play golf with him. And instead of getting my own set, maybe you should just make it.
That'd be a big project, 14 clubs.
I'm like practicing on his long. He's like, Priscilla, we need to get your own size. I'm a shorty.
Yeah. But no, it's with combining it, definitely. That's kind of actually funny, because in high school, in one of the technology courses, one of the projects, I think it was the final, was to use a milling machine and make a putter. which
That's
is
so
actually
cool.
kind of cool. So, I mean, it's everything around you is made in some sort or the other.
Yeah.
So with like, not just the creative parts of like making like a funky golf club or something like that, just making functional things like a storage stuff for your golf equipment.
Yeah.
And that again is what I started doing. I had an SUV and it had a big trunk, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make something to organize all of the golf balls and the shoes and everything. So I made this standing platform that went in my trunk that had a lid that you could store everything. And so I definitely take all of my surrounding passions and try to involve them in a more creative way that I could make something for.
Yeah, because us as makers, often we see things that are not like as they should be. I can't believe I'm saying this, because he just told me this episode that he just listened to. He's like, I don't like this episode because I wasn't mentioned in it, so I'm going to mention him, and he's going to be over the moon. But anyway, his name is Jürgen Stray, and he's a maker that lives actually quite close to me. Now, he had this mop or broom head or something. It was like a swivel end to it, and it broke. It was plastic. So what did he do? He made it out of titanium, a replacement. I just love that stuff. So if you don't know about Jürgen Stray, go check him out. He's awesome. He makes amazing stuff. Does a lot of not so much forging, but casting.
That's really
super interesting. Yeah. So, and he's also been on the podcast. I think he was episode 3 or 4 or something.
Okay, I did see that when I was going through the list.
Yeah.
So, about you?
Yeah. What about you? Let's hear your story, Cilla.
Can you rephrase the question? Right?
Why do you start from the? Let's hear a little bit about you and your art and your journey and everything comes with that.
So I'm one of 9, and in the beginning I was homeschooled for a little bit, and we are a really close-knit family. I have 7 sisters and 1 brother, and being able to spend a lot of time with them, we are all very creative and musically talented. So we all play piano, guitar, I play drums a little bit. So with that, and they've always, I say they, like my older sisters, like I'm very close with my one sister who's 10 years older than me. So they sprinkled into us younger ones. Have always encouraged me in drawing. So when I would write and illustrate stories when I was really little, they would help me learn how to spell correctly and help me draw things.
Yeah. She has a little fairy book that she drew at 5 years old that comes with her everywhere. It's still here.
It literally goes all the way up until I was 12. So you see some cursive in there. And then they also, so with that creative part, I played piano. So that was like my big first thing all the way up until like middle school and high school. It's still today, but I would write my own music. My dad got me a mixer so I could play to myself, and I would make layers where I'd play piano and guitar and add little drums in there and write my own music. As far as art, like I was saying, I started since I was so small, drawing things, coming up with characters or whatever it was in my mind. And when we came to high school, where I met Luke, that is where my art teacher kind of said, hey, there's this thing called college, because it wasn't not so big in my family. It's not something that my parents pushed on me or any of us. And so it was kind of like a pretty big deal. So she sent me to this summer school in upstate New York, where I met a bunch of other people my age who love art, which is so amazing to me. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole world. The following summer, she helped me go and apply and taught me how to apply for scholarships and find scholarships to attend the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And I got to have that pre-college experience. I got that credit. And when it came time for college, she was saying, like, you can go to school for art. And she kind of did push that art. Well, I came up with it in my mind first, but she also did kind of push that you can be an art teacher. Like that's a steady job, teaching. And I was like, you know what? She's changed my life so much. I would love to do that and give back. Not just her. We had another teacher, Mr. LeFay, and their rooms were connected. So Luke and I would just kind of like walk through.
They were both really relaxed.
Yeah. And then in college, let's just say I was on my own since I was about 18 going to college, and I had to get creative with everything in my life. Like I was supporting myself. So I would have like a job or two while putting myself through school.
To do like murals.
I would do murals to pay my rent. I would, like with my landlord, I would find ways to use the talent that I have to get myself where it is that I wanted to be. And Miss Gogola would even help me, and all the way up until like my junior or senior year of college, afford those supplies. You know, she would help me, you know, all the way from if I needed toilet paper to a Princeton $40 watercolor brush. So, and then as I went through my student teaching, I was like just about finishing up my undergrad is when I got together with Luke and decided what inspired me to go in to get my master's. And I got away from art a little bit there because it takes intense focus to study linguistics and other languages, and you need to know your own language to teach and we studied a lot of other languages. So it was a lot to do that. And then my student teaching after that, and it was just so much. And when Luke and I moved down to Long Island, it's so crazy how all of a sudden I started making art again. And it came from that woman who we were helping build her business, who happened to, I saw a sign. We hadn't even been living there for a few months, and it said local artists. Like she had local artists on display, and I was like, oh, I used to be an artist. I was like, oh wow. And I started making work, and it was very abstract. I decided I wanted to break out of what it was that I was doing, which is very formal training, studying the human body for hours. In university. I also took jewelry and metalsmithing, woodworking. I welded. I got to do a lot of that stuff. So when Luke and I got together, I really had that foundation background. So it's really cool that like I even got to teach him something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said casting, and I was thinking about jewelry when we did that.
Yeah.
So long story longer, as my dad says, I finally got back into art. And I wanted to touch on just these past couple of days with my process. I noticed that when I'm working on a body of work, I'm full of energy and is very inspired. When I start to take on commissions, at first, I'm just thrilled. Then when I'm working on them, you realize it is work. It starts to become work. It's a responsibility. And I start feeling a little fidgety if it's taking a lot of my time away from working on something for me.
Yeah.
And I had to take that step back because I took on several commissions recently.
All at once, yeah.
Not all at once, but kind of feels like that.
Well, since we live down here, and some of them have been from like past friends that are upstate still, we try to work it out so we can deliver them when we make a trip up there.
Well, I do my best, but just my recent series has been on social media. It started way before coronavirus. The positive effects really started with the negative impacts on society and communication, relationships, intimacy. And so when I've been working on these commissions that are not that at all, they're like portraiture or still life, I said to Luke, I'm feeling this way today. And he's like, well, what is it? And I was like, I just want to just study those people and their hands and their expressions. And I said, Luke, why are you doing that? Because I was processing what I was going through, like my painting. So I jumped from abstract back to what it is I love, which is actually the human naked body.
Yeah.
Well, they're not texting naked now, but Luke kind of helped me. He said, yes, go do it. Because he helped me. He said, it's okay if you go work on stuff for yourself while you're doing those commissions. Because I'll kind of wake up and think like, I got to go work. I got to do that commission. When what actually really helps me thrive is that energy and what it is that I'm working on for me. And for artists, especially I have a full-time job teaching art, is hard to give myself permission. And that's just me personally. But to end with my story, I teach full-time art. I've taught high school, from elementary to high school, and I taught ceramics, sculpture, mixed media, digital art, Photoshop, design, all that good stuff, drawing, painting. So I love what I do teaching, and I love what I do as an artist. But because I'm so passionate about both, sometimes one of the other takes control. So sometimes I'm focusing so much on my teaching that I'm not making time for art, and I'll get burnout. Or then I'll be focusing so much on my art, I'll be like, whoops, didn't do that lesson plan. So it's hard to find balance.
Yeah, because often I think one advantage you have is the fact that you have creativity strung between the two, right? That's like a common thread between them. Whereas I think some people often don't have that. Their day job has nothing to do with something they actually love to do. So, they kind of have that struggle too as well. Like, but on the opposite, like if they're working all the time on their day job and they get no time in the workshop, then they feel completely flat. And I think, Luke, you mentioned it to me before. I think when you weren't making, you felt like depressed and what's the meaning of life? That sort of thing. And I think that's important to make sure you get the time to sit down and do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it definitely happened during the winter months, like I said. But I mean, when you go to work in the dark and come home in the dark, it makes it even harder. You're tired at the end of the day, and it's like, I want to get out to the shop, but just, I don't know.
Another big part of my job is making samples. So now I'm making art that's not my art, and I'm making art for their art and making their art. And it becomes like just really overwhelming because I don't have that time even sometimes. And Luke will sometimes he will help me. I'll be like, Luke, please help me. But it helps me to feel like, okay, when I go in to teach it again, I'll be like, okay, wait, what? And he said, what I was teaching him 2-point perspective, and he would stop and say, whoa, slow down. Wait, what do I do next? And that preps me for when I go into class, because I try to stay mindful. Okay, I'm moving a little too fast. Sometimes I do in my mind because I know how it works. So I assume like I'm moving a little too fast. So Luke really supports me with that in the teaching part and with the making part. He says, well, why don't you try it like this? And he did that, Justin, in high school. Mm-hmm. I would get so frustrated. I had that home life where I was struggling, and there were a lot of times I never went to school. Mm-hmm. And when I would come to school, he kind of helped me catch up. Okay. And I would still do my projects, and amazing, but Luke always still there. It was almost like reteach me or guide me. And I don't know if I've ever told you that.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. Learn something new about each other every day.
Look what this podcast is doing. It's bringing you guys together even closer. Love it. Let's talk about that, because you guys, you come from an art background, Cilla, and then you got, an engineering background from you, Luke, and then making too, and art is also different. Like you got craft and art. When those worlds combined, how does that work for you guys? Are you, like, you kind of mentioned it before, you were kind of teaching each other. Luke was the student, getting taught the art ways of life, and, vice versa, right?
Right. And then since we've been working together in the shop more often, so not just me designing things and him building them, but really working together, we've learned a lot from each other in this, who we are as learners and who we are as teachers. So I really had to learn from Luke, not just how to work with the material, but how to use the tools and why, and what is their initial. He would even say, and this is a famous saying in art too, you have to know the rules before you can break them. And he will, emphasize that to me. Okay, I have to learn, how does this machine work before I can just do whatever I want with it to, be a little abstract and free, which is how I am more often. And because I have that little charm in me, it has rubbed off on Luke sometimes. Okay. So I think that another way that we learn from each other is by those conflicts or those challenges that kind of frustrate us, but then awaken us. Mm-hmm. So Luke, when he's trying to show me something, I've learned like I'm not the best.
She just likes to take it and be like, I know how to do that.
I'm not the best student in that I kind of don't have patience as much because I'm just so excited to work on it. But then Luke, he will, when it's the other way around, he actually is like, what do you mean? Like, this is what it is, and I'm going to make it. So like A plus B plus C, I'm going to execute it. Whereas when I really do draw things up, believe it or not, but it never comes out usually what it was meant to be. Whereas he's used to doing that way. Mm-hmm. And over time, it is amazing to see how his work has become more expressive and loose, and how anally straight I'm becoming. A little like I'm starting to be like, no, my paintbrushes, they have to be cut like this because I have to do this, and it has to match this. And so I think it's a good thing that our strengths and areas in need of improvement complement each other.
Yeah. And when we started PLSmithed, that was our mission statement, to have a growth mindset, to always strive to learn. And so really before Cilla and I would spend more time in the shop together.
That was the worst fist bump ever on earth.
It's tricky.
I was waiting for you to like do the gear stick.
Right? I love that.
All right, let's do it.
But no, like when I was just in the shop by myself, I would do it A plus B plus C and just execute the plan.
Oh, having a growth mindset.
She implored that onto me to be a little bit more loose and to have fun with it and to really just try new things. So, and that is where when I got into blacksmithing and doing more forging, that helped me be more loose and creative. And with wood, you have one cut, you can't add the material back. With forging, like you can take a round bar, make it a square, and make it back into a round. And you can do all these things like more fluid, organic movements. And it's just been so enlightening to give me more inspiration to try new things and to try being more artistic than, I guess, a craftsman in that sense.
Yeah, I just want to mention why I'm laughing is because he said that's true. Like once you remove the material, you can't get it back, I know that, which is why I work so slow and why I love wood. And he's like, why are you doing it that way? He's like, hurry up. This is the tool to take away material. And I'm like sanding for like days. He's like, why don't you just use this knife or this?
No, it was funny because we had a conversation with a friend and they were asking, like, what's your favorite tool? And she goes, the sander. And she goes, well, isn't that like a finishing thing? Like not as like, she's like, well, what tool? And she's like, yeah, like the sanding file. And it's just so funny because she'll take scrap wood and just put it down into shape like a sculpture.
Oh, I was just going to say, just in short, that I'm that type of artist that you see a block of stone and I know what I want to shape it into. So I like take it away like that.
Yeah.
Funny.
It sounds like you guys have like your challenges in your relationship by forcing yourselves to be working next to each other. Kind of sounds like me and my wife when I decided I was gonna get into rally driving, and so I said we're doing this together because I didn't have a navigator to sit next to me, so I strapped her in the car, and it's what made us. Like
awesome.
It put us in such stressful situations, and we came out of it like better off.
That's fantastic.
Like we had our fights for sure because I'm like a perfectionist. I don't like to call myself that, but I am, to be honest. We kind of mentioned that before, but and she would be like, "Oh, just take it easy." I'm like, we're going to win this thing, And then she was like, as long as we have fun. And I was like,
That's amazing. Like, enjoy the mess ups.
I love these. I've always been inspired by rally driving, and I've always wanted to try that. I mean, I had a Subaru WRX for a few years, and I did all the modifications and made it fast. I've always wanted to take off road, but unfortunately 3 weeks ago, the engine blew up, and I traded that in to get a truck, which more fits our business and what we do in life, so.
I get that. But, like the thing is often what I do is like I'll see something and I'll be like, one day I'll do that. And usually, like when I say one day, it's like by day 2, I'm like restless. So like, that's basically what happened in 2006. Some friends of ours said, "Oh, do you want to come to the World Rally Championship to watch it?" And I knew about rally, like I liked it, but I didn't really watch it. And then if you ever go to a real rally, you'll get hooked. I don't care who you are, you'll get hooked because that is just insane.
Yeah. And
I don't know how those guys drive with the size testicles they have. Like, it's just incredible.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like with you and your wife in the car and her being your navigator, I mean, there's so much technicality into saying how big of a turn comes up or what's going to be after that. And having like maybe she's relaxed and you don't get the idea of how big of a turn, then, it's like, oh my God, like you need to know that information. And that definitely can help your communication grow.
Kudos to my wife. She did a great job. Like, it was me that did a crap job. Like, I wouldn't listen to her. She'd tell me exactly the right notes, and I'd be so like trying to keep the car on the road. I was like, "What's next?" And she's like, "I just said it."
We used to do that sometimes with blacksmithing. Mm-hmm. Like if I can give him an eye on what it is that he's doing,
she can see a different angle than I can, and it definitely helps. But that is something that both of us also really work on is communication. Effective communication with each other. And I would say that for any couple out there, just learning how each of you communicate and get your emotions or anything across is such a great builder for a positive, happy relationship.
It is our number one priority to learn and improve that at all times.
With code word, conference call. When
we have a code word. It's no matter what's going on, we say conference call. Yep. And then if the other person is like in the middle, it's like conference call or
in 5 minutes.
Conference call. So it's all about like communication with anything and everything. Mm-hmm. So as long as we continue to practice that all the time, we even like study things, read things, practice. We even, what is it called? When you like react it, like
reenact it?
Like role play. We're like, okay, you just got home and you're pissed off.
What do you do?
What do you do? And I'm like, this, and I'll come in and do it. And he's like, this is how you need to react. I need a hug. Okay. It's no, we'll literally do whatever it takes to and like make sure that we understand each other.
That's something that I truly believe in too. For those listeners that have been listening for a while, they'll know that every 10 episodes I have my wife on the show. And, we talk about things like this all the time. Communication is the key. And if I didn't communicate to her how much I needed to be creative and I needed that, then she probably wouldn't give me the time I need. Honestly, like I'm just blown away. Like the other week she said, all of a sudden, she's like, we've got a little bit of extra money this month. Let's insulate one wall of your garage. Like we've got enough money to do that.
That's fantastic.
And she supports me in that way. Now, if I didn't communicate to her like what I needed and what I was thinking, not only in workshop stuff, but relationships side of things, then I wouldn't get those benefits. She wouldn't feel like she wanted to help me in the garage or in the workshop.
That's so cool.
That's super important. Like look after your loved ones. I talked about it actually episode 10, the 5 love languages.
Well, we've read that.
Yeah, that's the book you're talking about.
We listened to it together on the way up and home and back from visiting relatives.
5-hour road trip. I mean, I was.
That was great. How is your tank?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
How can I fill your tank?
But it applies to children. It applies to everyone. Like and the love languages thing is super important to remember if you've got a partner and you need things from them, as in you need workshop time and so on and so forth. Then in my opinion, you need to be able to talk their love language so they feel like it's okay for you to be in the workshop. That time you spend the time with them, give them what they need, speak their love language, fill their love tank up, and then they'll be like, oh, off you go, have fun in the shop, and not resent you, for spending all that time in the shop.
That is, if anybody listening that hasn't read that or even just listened to the audiobook, it is an incredible thing that will really open your eyes, because it's not just, your relationship with a close, loved one. It's down to your parents and the way that you grew up and you learned how to express love and how to feel love. And it is so cool. And on the note of supporting your spouse or your significant other, that's one thing that Cilla has been amazing for me with, because I'll just mention something in passing. Like I'll see on Instagram, I was like, oh, there's this cool thing called Makers Camp. It's in October. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if we'll be able to afford it, whatever. I just mentioned that one day. And then months later, when I've forgotten about their conversation, she's like, hey, guess what? I got us tickets to go there. So it's just,
acts of service.
Yeah, exactly. That's love language for sure.
Or can we call it gifts? But I think it's act of service, because I think it's something that, you knew it would mean a lot to him if you had organized that for him,
That's how I got an anvil. That's another thing. She surprised me with the trip there and with getting me an anvil there. And it's just changed my life to bring that home and being able to forge together and explore a new I don't know.
Creative
path.
I think it's important to look after each other, especially if you're working together. That's like a hostile environment sometimes, Exactly, yeah. So, and kudos to those who actually, work with their partners all the time. It is, you need to have that good communication between you guys to actually work and function, especially if you're trying to run a business.
Like I said, my dad was in his family business with brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different thing than a spouse, because it's like no holds bar sometimes. And when the communication is off with the one that's in charge and not, it's like, oh my gosh, you really have to get it down to what's going to happen, or else you're going to crash and burn almost.
We do a really good job. Like we even, not only do we like every week, like sit down and, budget or
write out everything.
Plan our week or plan our month, or year, which we also did recently.
Yeah.
We plan out, we make business meetings for PLSmithed.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, this day is like a real PLSmithed, and that has its own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we do a really good job with kind of like balancing that and keeping it separate, honestly, from our personal lives.
For sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's go into story time.
Story time. She stared at the gown and thought, yes, this is something my husband would wear.
Have you got a story to share with us? So we were just talking about like pretty much killing each other in the shop. And I was thinking, I wonder if there's a good story you guys have got there.
You have a good one, because for us, and it's actually more, Cilla has, implored this on me, is traveling. She loved to travel, and I was always a homebody where I was like, I never left the country. And from just experiences doing that together, it's made me really enjoy discovering new countries and to just learn different cultures.
Yeah. He didn't have a passport, and he had never left the country. And I really wanted to go on another trip because I had traveled before. I really enjoy it. And he was like, you know what? All right. So like that was one of his getting outside of his comfort zone. And when we went, we went on, part of it was this guided thing that my friend told us about, my really good friend.
Well, we planned a trip to Spain. That's where we wanted to go first.
And then I was like, well, while we're over there, let's bang out a few countries. No, just kidding. Yeah. So, which is what we did on our honeymoon, which was really fun. But no, we ended up taking a short weekend trip to Morocco. And our funny story is, I don't know if you've picked up on this yet, but Luke and I love making new friends. And it's not just anybody, but like we really genuinely like when we have those connections, like that energy we were talking about. So we made some really good friends with a German and
She's from Mexico. Yeah.
And luck, wasn't, because we happened to be a couple where everyone else was kind of young and single there.
It was like a college tour.
Yeah, sort of. And then that like age group. We only had we weren't married yet.
Oh, that's true. We were engaged.
Yeah. So then we go to Morocco. We made friends. So the four of us were walking around after we did like this cultural, like kind of more of like a scheduled event thing. And we were looking on the lookout for like a hookah bar or something like this. And we go and we find this place that like kind of seems like it's closed or like quiet. And we go in and
We somehow met the owner.
Yeah,
That's just the thing that happens with us, I guess.
I know, what is it?
Meet owners.
So it happened to be karaoke. Okay, but they were so nice because I don't know if it was like slow. Yeah, because it was kind of early in the night.
It wasn't karaoke night. It just had live music.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't like anybody that could go up there and start singing. Right. It was just they had some people there that were playing different songs and stuff, and they're in like a Moroccan,
Yeah, it's all. I mean, the owner spoke English. Maybe that's why he was, kind of, waiting on us. But we had a lot of fun after the dinner. The four of us, we had some hookah. We started becoming friends with the owner and chatting it up and whatnot. I don't know how this happened, but I ended up on stage.
Yeah.
And I was singing a song in English. I don't remember. I think it was like Adele or something, because they were playing American music. That was kind of like their thing, Again, I don't know. And I got up and I playing the piano for that one? I was.
Either you played. No, I think you were playing the guitar.
That was after.
Okay.
So first I sing in English. I sing in English on the piano.
Yeah.
And then the crowd is over because that was kind of like the whole hookah bar thing. And when that ended, we started hanging out with some other Moroccans, and he was playing playing guitar, and they were singing in their language, whatever song. And so while they were singing, I did pick up the guitar and start playing while they were singing. But it was just
well, it wasn't even that you were playing songs that were like pop culture songs that they knew of. You just started playing the songs that you've written.
Yeah.
And they were just like loving it. It was so cool. There's no lyrics to it, and just playing on the piano and guitar.
It was so fun because don't forget, like our friend Nadik and Karen, like they are like this is their first time to Morocco.
Yeah.
And the four of us are just having a blast, and we're still friends with him, the owner.
Yeah, we still talk on WhatsApp and stuff.
Yes. And he actually has a YouTube also.
Yeah.
Where they do like music. Yeah. And anyways, that was just a funny story because it was just hilarious.
I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, what's she gonna do? Like I don't want to disrupt anything. And she's like, I'm gonna go jam with them. So.
And it was really fun because I think music is a language that you can connect with. And I forgot the guy who was playing piano. Honestly,
Jalal.
Jalal, he's talented.
Yeah.
Guitar player. Holy
great voice
crap.
too.
Yeah, so I just was like going with it, and I was singing notes. I didn't know what the words meant, but I picked up quick.
Vocalizing.
Yeah, I was vocalizing, harmonizing, and we have some videos, and it was just awesome. I still can't believe that happened. Like it was so spontaneous, and we keep those friendships, those connections. You know?
I mean, the friends we were with too, Karen and Nark, they were kind of, a little bit shy, and they it was like their first time there, and they just felt the same way.
They were like, "Who is Luke and Priscilla?"
Yeah,
they've only known us like a few days.
Like, wow, I couldn't believe you just did that.
But it was an amazing experience for them also. So it was really fun.
Isn't that interesting what travel does? I mean, Chris and I, we have similar stories. We were in New York. We got ushered into a comedy club, and then like 3 a.m. in the morning, we're drinking shots in someone's apartment. It was nuts. I mean, it was great.
That's the best New York experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, that's what travel does. So like, when you get out of your comfort zone too, and you open up and you meet people, and great things always happen.
Yeah, sure.
Right. That's so awesome. Let's go into Inspiration Nation. Yeah. Inspiration Nation.
So we were wondering if it's okay if we do one each, or if you wanted to do.
You can do whatever you guys want. This is your podcast.
Okay.
We're just gonna do our one.
No, you do them, and I got mine too.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot.
At first we were talking.
I forgot. All right. So mine is Kevin Lazat. He is a machinist, and he works for GE.
Aviation.
Yeah. He makes tools for the parts that are used to make the parts that go into the plane engines. And we met him at Makers Camp. And what I want to shout him out on is he's not only extremely talented in what he does and intelligent, and all of that engineering background with what it is that he does at work, but he takes it home and he makes some amazing work. He's made his lamps are pretty cool.
That's when his fascination is into lamps and lighting things.
It's so cool. And he loves art. One thing I bond with him on is art history, because I love like Frank Lloyd Wright and all type of artists, like architect, design.
And art is something that he hasn't really explored much, like painting specifically.
Which I was just about to say is, he shared with me some of his sketches, and he asked my opinion on how to take that into painting. So I helped him. We took like a little painting class when he came to visit us. I literally went over a little acrylic with him, and we had our own canvases, and he's reaching out in that way. And what I like about him is he always wants to learn. He has a growth mindset. He wants to learn, and he connects his engineering to this fine art part of him that he didn't even really know, but he wants to explore it, and he is, and it's so awesome. He is a really great guy, and the fact that he loves to support his friends like Jimmy and Taylor and collaborating to do things for a good cause. He helps he's always helping others, and he takes that learning experience into his own work and then passes that on. And I think that's amazing. And he's
just an incredible machinist. I mean, he can make things.
He's an incredible person. And then his work is just like, it's amazing. Even if, so from my point of view, being like, I have that artist side. So when I see his artist side and he shows me his sketches, I'm like, wow. And then I kind of understand his machining part a little bit more. And then he teaches us a lot about, we never knew.
That. It's just, we met him, like Cilla said, we met him at Makers Camp, and we've only known him for less than a year, but it just was an instant connection between us, and he's become a really good friend, where we went and visited him, and like Cilla was saying, he brings his work home. He has his own machinist shop in his basement of his apartment, and it's just incredible. He's a great person.
And his address is 455.
But yeah, definitely go check out Kevin Lizotte. You can search him on Instagram.
Lizott.
Yep. So, great. And the Inspiration Nation shout out that I have is Nick Bodner. He's Tech Ed Fireman. TECH. And he just is an incredible guy that I met when I was at the workshop at Jimmy's. And he is a technology teacher in a high school, but so much more than that. He's taken on so many different, just making roles or just different things that he enjoys to do. And I learned that in Made for Makers, where he posted kind of like, what do you do outside of making? And he just had like the longest list where he goes, I didn't know that you ran out of room in a description. See the first comment. So he's just been a really cool guy that I just met and had an instant connection. And he is really just positive. He supports so many different makers, wears all their t-shirts, has all their stickers, and just follows along with videos and posts. And he inspired us to get more into turning on the lathe. When we went to Makers Camp, he had a demonstration set up where he was turning pens. And it was so funny because I had met him, a few months prior, and Cilla came with me to Makers Camp, and I introduced her to him and
5 million other people.
Yeah, it's just all the different people I've known. And we came back around, and she goes, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." He goes, "Yeah, I know, we met already."
Burn.
It was so hard because I have met so many people, and kind of just to break the ice, I said, "Hi, I'm Tom." From that Adam Sandler movie. It's 10-second Tom. He kind of
Yeah.
So it just kind of broke the ice a little bit. And
became like an inside joke. We just say, "Hi, I'm Tom." But,
and then for the rest of the weekend, everyone called me Tom.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And also Nick's handle, Tech Ed Fireman, he's also a volunteer firefighter. Yeah. So he just is a guy that loves to give back to the community, and you should totally give him some love on Instagram and tell him that Tom sent you.
And with the pen turning, it was freedom pens.
Yeah.
You didn't keep the pen you made. We
donated it to the military servicemen and women that are abroad.
Yeah. And that is just amazing how he gives and the way that he does it. it's really awesome to see that support. And not only were we learning, so he incorporated his teaching part, but just also his passions that he's so supportive of.
And if you have a question on anything like
fire
from woodworking, like what species of wood something is, like just reach out to him on Instagram. I'm sure he'll give you an answer back.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Right. Let's talk about the white elephant in the room. Made for Makers.
Okay.
What's that?
I don't know. Someone started it, and it went crazy, and all these amazing people joined, and let's talk about it. Like, where did it come from? Why did you start it? And what surprised you the most from what happened with it?
Oh, I like that. You answer the second part. I'll answer.
Okay.
So I was doing an artist challenge for April, and it was actually cool because one of my friends was doing it, and I never do those things because I was already struggling with social media, like I told you before, with Instagram. And I really wanted to do it because I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone, and it was great. However, it was just kind of like there's no sound made.